Hello, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the Mamathon movement here tonight for a very special live. This is our second time partnering with the amazing Cedarville University. I just so happened to meet some of their representatives, I think at the HSLDA homeschooling or National Leadership Conference. And then from there, I connected with the amazing Dr. Janice Plea, and we have been girlfriending it ever since. So, Dr. Janice, thank you for being here.
Happy to be with you again. I actually re-listened to some of our conversation from last year, and it was so fun. Just the laughter, and I love talking with you, Christina.
Yeah, same here. I'll always say that there are people that you find like-minded spirits with, and I definitely feel like, some of the work and partnerships that we've been able to create have been so amazing. So thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm happy to. Thank you.
Okay, so while I make sure that we are live in all the places like we are supposed to, Dr. Janice, would you take a moment and just share more about you, the work that you do at Cedarville?
Sure. So my name is Janice Plea, and I have the privilege of serving as Vice President for Marketing and Communications here at Cedarville University. And I also have a dual role as Dean of our graduate school. So that's kind of my work life. And then on the home front, I am married. My husband's name is Ed, and he and I have one son. His name is Ben. He got married about 1.5 years ago to a beautiful young lady named McKenna. And so we are enjoying this new season in life and just kind of watching them do adult things and experience that with them. And so we're kind of in a sweet season, I would say.
Yes, that's amazing. I'll say we were sharing and laughing about this before we went live about like going into different seasons of parenting and of motherhood, how very often it can seem like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting this, or, they told me this phase was coming, and you still feel surprised. Like somehow, my oldest son is just gigantic and he's growing up so quickly, and next year will be his last year in high school. And you're always thinking, when did it happen?
Yeah. So you got to come visit Cedarville with him. We'd love to welcome you to campus. So
yeah. Yes, that sounds so fun. So let's start our chat off for a little bit. I know that I want to acknowledge who you are as a person first. I know you do amazing work at Cedarville, but you as a person, your educational journey, right? Just, you having worked through it for yourself first. There are going to be a lot of moms who are coming. We sent an email out that they're going to be connecting to this live. And I want them to feel always like the dream or the goal they have is possible.
Yeah.
That's always our ambition, is to make sure they feel whatever it is that's in their heart to do, that it feels possible. If she did it, I can do it too. And God is not a respecter of persons, right? Like if he's equipped one person to do something and given them the grace for it, I believe that I can have that same grace. So could you talk just for a few minutes about your educational journey? I don't know at what point you went and got your doctorate, or, all of those things. I'm sure we've talked about it before, but for the sake of those who are just joining in, would you just share a bit more about your history and your path to the work that you're doing now?
Yeah. And I would say I was one of those people that didn't kind of go into my adult life thinking I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. It was, the Lord really took us on a journey, and some of the stops along the way were not stops that we really wanted to have. So I went to Cedarville University as a college student, and I graduated back in the 80s. So I'm dating myself here. But my dad was a faculty member. My mom was in education. And so I grew up with education all around me. I knew the value of education. So I went to Cedarville. I majored in organizational communication. And then my husband and I moved to Texas, and we lived there for 5 years. And then we moved up to Canada. So, your Yankees were from the north, right? So we were Yankees in Texas, and then we were Yankees in Canada. And while we were there, I had a couple of different jobs. One was with a printing company, and then another one was starting a mentoring program for high school students. But I wouldn't say that I was on this career trajectory. Like I wasn't really thinking, what's the next thing I want to do? I was just this was the job that the Lord opened up for me. And I have a firm belief that God uses every experience that we have really to grow us and prepare us for what he has next.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1995, we moved back to Cedarville, and I started working at the university and was in the admissions area. And I had a supervisor that just was a person who invested in me personally and professionally, gave me opportunities that were, beyond what he probably should have given to me. It just believed in me in a really special way. I'm really thankful for him as a mentor. And at one point he said, Janice, you ought to think about doing your master's degree. And at that point, we did not have children, and my husband was working full time, and it seemed like something that would be doable. And so that was a little bit before online. That was in the late 90s. And so I went to Wright State University, which is about 30 minutes from where I live. And I would go to class on Monday night and Thursday night, and I would get there by 6 and stay till 9 p.m. and do my classes and then do homework. And it was a very busy season, but I grew a lot through that experience. I learned a lot about what I was capable of. I'm so glad that I did it. So I graduated with my MBA in 2001. And at that point, I just thought that was all the education I would do, right? I just thought that's enough for me, right? And it was in about 2010 or 11 that I started thinking about, working in higher education, having a doctorate is a really important piece of being able to teach, being in academic leadership. A doctorate is kind of part of that. And so I started looking at options for where I could go to school. And by this time, we have a son who's in 4th grade, husband's working full time, I'm working full time. It's a very busy season of life. How do you add one more thing to that, right? And so I started looking at different options that would accommodate a working woman. And I looked at 2 universities in the South, actually. And I looked at University of Dayton, which is in our area. And then I looked at University of Nebraska in Lincoln. They have an online program. And it was actually one of the first online PhDs in higher ed leadership. And so I flew out there, I met with the leadership, and I had the very disappointing result of not being accepted into the program. And that was like really hard because I thought that's really where I wanted to go. So I went and visited my other choices in Tennessee and Alabama. And the Lord opened both of those doors. But really, out of the blue, I got a telephone call from Nebraska that I had been accepted to their program on a subsequent review of applications. Then I had a big decision to make.
Yes.
My husband and I talked about it. I called the woman who would be my advisor at Nebraska. The big question for me was, would I be lost in a big school and not be able to finish in a good amount of time? And she just, right on that telephone call, she said, Janice, you're going to walk across the stage in 3 years, and I'm going to hood you and give you a hug. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. So that was I think it was early April. And she said, what you need to do is you need to get out to Lincoln by the second week of May when the summer term starts and just jump right in and do this 3-week residence. Like, you're in.
Wow.
And it was scary. Like, I was scared to death. I drove out there by myself. I stayed with friends out in the Lincoln area. But it was the beginning of an amazing journey. And she was right. Like, she helped me through it the whole way. And so again, God used a mentor, someone that believed in my abilities and really helped me accomplish something that I wasn't sure that I could accomplish myself. So that's my educational journey. I graduated from University of Nebraska in 2014.
Congratulations to you first. I think there was something so amazing that you said that I just, I have a tendency to go in and just grab these little threads out or these really impactful statements. Something that you said was when you were thinking about making the decision, how do I add one more thing?
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that when my husband comes to me and says, I think I want to add this, I'm excited for him, right? I'm like, oh, you can totally do this. Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Sky's the limit. I'm 100% in. If my kids come to me, I'm like, we're going to figure it out, right? But then I think that there's something that happens inside of us as mothers, or women matriarchs of our family, where we say, I really do want to do this, but I'll do it another time, or I'll
Yeah.
do it someday in the future. This will
Right.
be my story, instead of how can I make it happen sooner or work towards achieving that goal. So I think that's, how do I make it happen, and feeling maybe a bit of guilt sometimes,
Mhm.
or, like that, this heaviness here about how do I add one more thing. And then the one more thing is about me.
Yeah.
It's not about everybody else. It's actually about me.
Right.
And this time I'm asking everyone to bend for me. I think that is, kind of just a new way that we open our eyes.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you that an educational decision isn't a family decision at some level,
Yeah.
because whenever there's cost benefits to everything, right? You
Mhm.
you get this benefit, but there's also a cost. There are things that you can't do. So I remember when I was in the middle of those that doctoral education, my husband was a band director at the time,
Mhm.
and my son would go to Friday night football games with him, and Friday night was my study night. So I didn't get to go. I didn't get to do those kinds of
Mhm.
things, but
Mhm.
that was my night. And so it was kind of how we worked together as a family to make it work.
Mhm.
I teach a leadership class at Cedarville. And one of the examples that we talk about is big rocks. And you may have heard this example before. When you talk about, can I add one more thing?
Yes.
This is my best illustration of this. It's like, think of it, a canning jar, and you've got you've got rocks in that canning jar of things that you are already responsible for, your kids and church responsibilities, and maybe you're working full time, and how do I add one more thing? And really it starts with putting the big rocks in first. What are the priorities that you cannot sacrifice, you can't give up for
Mhm.
whatever reason? And
Mhm.
then you will be amazed at how much else fits around those rocks, right? If you put in smaller pebbles, or you put in sand, and then you add water. And
Mhm.
so the jar looked like it was full just with big rocks, but once you start adding all the rest of this, God's given us tremendous capability and resilience.
Yes.
I think he's wired women in a way that we think holistically. So we have the capability, and you can't generalize to every single woman out there, but in general, I think we have the ability to be holistic in the way we're thinking. And
Mhm.
so I can be working on work, but at the same time, I can be thinking about my education as well. And
Mhm.
so sometimes you just jump right in and you go one day at a time, and you will be amazed at what you can accomplish one day at a time.
Yes, that's so true. And I love that illustration. I feel like you may have shared that the last year. And I remember just feeling like, yes, yeah, I do have more space. Now, I'm going to add to that. Good evening, everyone who's watching across in LinkedIn land, on Facebook, on all of our pages. Good evening. If you are here watching, do me a favor. Come to the Mamathon Diaries page and drop your name. Say hello, give us a greeting, because I'm using those names to do the ticket giveaways. And we're not going to do just one giveaway tonight. We're going to do two giveaways, two conference tickets on behalf of Cedarville University. So make sure that I see you in Michelle here already. But if there are some other moms and you want to be included in the giveaway, or someone who could benefit from that ticket, who needs to grow and network with some other amazing women, then make sure you come to the Mamathon Diaries page and leave a comment so that I can find you. Hi, Chastity. I see you. Thank you so very much. Okay, so let's just lean into it for a second about what you said about capacity, about how you feel like the Lord has given us this wide open space. I coach all the time, like endlessly, on the idea behind capacity. Almost that instead of it being a fixed container, that it's a muscle,
Mm,
muscle that
great
we can,
illustration. Yep.
it's a muscle that we can use. And if you don't use the muscle, it will shrivel. Right. But if
Mhm.
you do, we've all seen the bodybuilders walking across stage. I have the capability inside to grow and to change and to shift. So even as we think about, going back to school, starting businesses, getting certificates, growing our families, growing our careers, what are your thoughts about stretching that muscle? What are some ways that you had to do that for yourself?
Well, I think you do that in so many different ways.
Mhm.
Education is one way, right? Because you're
Yes.
doing something that is difficult. It's something that's going to stretch your mind. I think in other seasons of my life, it's been trying a new job, taking on something that I'd never done before.
Mhm.
And, that first year is super challenging as you're meeting new people and you're taking on new responsibilities. But then you look back after that and you think, wow, I have learned so much. I've grown and you figure out how to do it. So I told you I serve in a dual role at Cedarville. So I
Mhm.
serve as vice president for marketing and communications. I started in that role in 2016. And then in 2017, the president asked me to take on the role of dean of the graduate school.
Mhm.
And well, I guess the way I would say is you look for the places that you can double up your efforts, right? So I'm
Mhm.
not just taking on a brand new job. Part of my role is developing new graduate programs. And so market research falls within my marketing hat, right? And so
Mhm.
you find ways to be strategic in the work that you do. I think
Mhm.
other ways that you continue to grow your capacity is spend time with high capacity people. Like there are
Hold
people
on.
who
Say it again. That's so
spend
good.
time with high capacity people. There was a lady, she actually just passed away last January, who's just an amazing mentor to me. Her name was PM Johnson. And she and I would go to lunch once a month. And she was a tennis coach. She was a dean. She taught classes. I mean,
Mhm.
she just had this persona or whatever that take it on and try it. And those kind of people energize you. There's another person I can think of whose name is Kim, and she's the same type of person that when you spend time with her, you walk away and you think, wow, I could do that, because you see somebody doing it. And I think it's important to surround ourselves with people who are hopeful and joyful, and they're using the capacity and the gifts that God's given them. And those kind of people will inspire you. And then also
Mhm.
being around people who just encourage you and they
Mhm.
see talents and gifts that you have. I mentioned my mentor, Dave, and I had another mentor in Dallas whose name was Joe Garrett. And it was like they didn't think there was anything I couldn't do, right? And so when you have a boss like that, when you have somebody like that, you start to believe them. And I think
Yes.
I've it the other way. I think as a parent, I think it's really important that all of us be that and do that for our kids as much as possible. Be the
Mm.
ones that say, you have the capacity, take this on, try this.
Mhm.
Because the more you try and the more you do, the more you realize, wow, you may not be perfect at it, but you enjoyed it and you tried something new. So those are just some ideas for how to increase our own capacity.
I love that. The idea of surrounding yourself with high capacity people, I think it's like, I felt so much like mentoring, coaching did so much for me as a person.
Oh, so true.
Like it just, there are certain things that now I look at myself. I was telling my kids, I said, you see me working on this? I'm not freaking out. And they would
Yeah.
laugh, we would laugh about it, but it's just this idea, like, and Michelle said, every mom needs encouragement. Everybody in their journey, in their path, you need someone that is, even if they're a couple steps ahead of you, who is
Yes.
not limited by you all both having the same perspective, like,
Yep.
I was telling a client earlier, I said, if you're an overwhelmed mom, and then we call our friends who are also
Right.
overwhelmed moms, I've had
Right.
clients who are therapists and they're talking to their therapist about, their husband's doing a thing. And then the therapist joins in, like, my husband does the same thing. No, like you need somebody that's outside
Right.
the bubble, your particular fixed field of vision to say, what, I really do believe that there
Yeah.
is nothing that, you're not confined in any way. And so I think when we think through capacity, you need people who believe in you.
You do.
You need people who believe in you to stretch you, sometimes more than what you feel is comfortable.
Yeah.
Here, you can do this. Can I? I don't know, but I'm gonna hand it to you anyway. And I just believe that you're gonna succeed at what you put your hands to.
Because I mean, research shows that even a supervisor who believes in an employee And
Mm-hmm.
then that person's going to start believing more in their own capabilities and abilities, and they become more productive. And it becomes this cycle of really building a team. And so
Yes.
surrounding yourself with people that believe in you, see the best in you, are, like you mentioned, I think it's a great advice, a couple steps ahead of you, just to give you perspective, right? Because sometimes when we're right in the middle of something, it seems overwhelming, and someone who's already been through it and walked through it can say, you know what? This too shall pass, and it's going to be okay. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I can remember, and we'll move on in a second. I can remember my sister-in-law giving me that talk. Like, I remember my parents, of course, were great marriage examples. And I
Yeah.
remember my dad talking to me about, when your kids are grown and flown, and, you need to make sure you invest in your marriage while they're home, lest, they grow up and move on. And you guys are looking at each other like, who is this stranger across the table? Because all of our lives have been wrapped around the children. But I remember my sister-in-law talking to me about marital stages, and I'm sure
Mm.
she had been married 12, 15 years at that time. Their kids were getting older, maybe about to graduate. But I remember her talking to me about honeymooning in year 1 and 2. And then somewhere around year 5 to 7, the other person's breathing just gets on your nerves. And you're like, you just breathe loud. I don't like you right now. You're looking at each other like that. And then you get to year 10 and 15 and your kids are more independent, so you're kind of coming back to yourself. And then when you hit year 20 in marriage, your kids are graduating. So now you're in a whole new different, phase of life. But I needed to hear that, right, as a young married person, because she was steps ahead of me. And it helped me to say, you know what? Oh, I can do this. Your breathing is annoying. That means I'm in year 5 or 6 and we're going to be fine.
Okay.
It's normal.
Yeah.
This is normal. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about good evening, everyone. We're kind of going through just hearing more about Dr. Sapli and the work that she does at Cedarville. When I initially came across the Cedarville team, they were there representing for you all's dual enrollment program.
Yep.
So as a homeschooling mom, I'm obsessed. But would you just take a second for those mothers who are listening to just talk about, I know that's undergrad or, some other things,
Yep.
but just to highlight that resource for our mothers, because some of them want a better way for their kids to get college credits early without mailing them off and dropping them off on the campus just yet,
Yep.
for you all's online options.
Yeah, dual enrollment is incredibly growing area, not just at Cedarville, but around the nation, because families are realizing this is an incredible way to save time and ultimately money and college expenses. And I think all parents are thinking about that. How do we make this affordable? So Cedarville has about 1,700 high school students enrolled in dual enrollment.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's been an upward trajectory. It's really exciting. Many of those students are studying online with us. And pretty much you can take all of your general education courses at Cedarville fully online. And the student, we recommend high school age, but I'll be honest with you, we have some homeschooled kids like in 7th or 8th grade that are ready academically. Now, not across the board, but there are a few. And so we would have students from 7th grade through 12th grade, mostly high school students. They apply for admission, they go through that process, and then they can sign up for these dual enrollment classes, everything from speech. You can do speech online to composition. And the thing I'll mention, Cedarville is fully accredited. We are regionally accredited institutions. So you might say, well, I'm not sure my student's going to go to Ohio for college. That's okay. These credits are going to transfer whether you go to the state university near you or a private university, because we're a regionally accredited private university. So, and you can even enroll them in some Bible classes if you would like to, and kind of give them some of that basic Bible understanding. Cedarville offers a Bible minor to all of our undergraduate students. Those classes are available through our dual enrollment program, and it's incredibly reduced price. So especially for someone who's homeschooling and is used to paying for curriculum, most of our homeschooling families find the tuition to be very, very affordable.
I think that's awesome. And it kind of piggybacks off of what you said about believing that you can do something. Maybe you growing up as a mom or as an individual, you didn't have experience with dual enrollment, but you've heard about it a little bit, or you're kind of curious about it for your kids, whether they're homeschooling or not, I think is a really amazing resource, because, I've been considering it for my oldest son. He's going into the 12th grade, and, I'm just, kind of trying to absorb, but then also challenge. And so I think that those, just those ideas are really incredible.
Yeah, and more families are doing it. And so I would encourage your listeners to look into dual enrollment. It's an affordable way to get a college experience. And the data shows that students who do dual enrollment in high school are going to be more successful in college grades wise, and they will graduate at a higher rate just because they are having that experience early. And sometimes they're having it with their parents' support.
Mm-hmm.
And that's incredibly important when you start in that college journey, that, mom and dad are there to encourage you and say, you might want to read that textbook and maybe get that assignment done on time. And for some students, that's extremely helpful in making that transition from kind of that high school to being on your own in college.
Yes, my son, they take math at I guess it was more like a co-op type of program.
Yep.
But one of the teachers, he's very set it and forget it, like it's on Google Classroom.
You're on your own.
If you have questions, look at your notes, watch the videos, and then bring it to class. And the next time, there's no, one of their teachers is very hands-on, if you need support. This other one, I said, baby, he's preparing you for college, because in college, no one's going to remind you or any of the above. So I think it's really good for them to get a taste of that experience also.
Yeah, it really is. So,
and
we find homeschooled students in general, I will say, are prepared for dual enrollment because they're used to working more independently. And so they come into this online learning environment and do really well. Sometimes people think of online as it's like a correspondence course. You just go on the computer or you watch a video, you read something, and online education has come a long way from that. And Cedarville courses are very engaging. Students are connecting with other students in the class. So I'd encourage you to give it a look and just see if it's something that would work for your students.
Yes, I love that. And I'll say too, sometimes as a homeschooling mother, we're a little soft on our kids. Sometimes I'm letting you know. And it may not be necessarily me, but I'm a very flowy type of learner. It's like, oh, if today's a rough day, we'll pick this back up tomorrow. And sometimes you need to have those added resources that give you deadlines, hard stop deadlines, that make sure that things get done on schedule. So, for those homeschool moms that are, interested or curious, sometimes it's like, I need someone else. I needed those added math teachers to put that pressure on them, because we can come back to this tomorrow. If it's relationship over everything. Like, we have to keep a good relationship. And so it helped me to delegate, more challenging courses to someone else, because I'm going to be a let's pick this back up tomorrow person. And if you know that about yourself, if you know that about yourself, that's okay. But make sure that our kids get the resources that they need.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I would love to have your listeners check it out and see what we offer.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's make a shift to graduate school. Good evening, everyone. Make sure that you leave a comment below so that we can pull your name for the ticket giveaway, okay? All right, so you were sharing about your personal educational journey and, how it felt challenging for you to step away, go stay with friends, right, in order to start the process of, getting your next degree. Can you speak to the mom right now who's considering, I might want to go back to school? And I think that I think they're talking about me. Like, I feel like when they were talking about capacity and getting people to support you and all of that, I feel like they're walking down my pew, So can you just talk to the mom who maybe this feels hard for, who maybe, she's the one more thing that she wants to add to her plate, and how do I create space for that? And then maybe what her next step might look like in terms of getting involved again.
Yeah, that's great. So I think I would say begin with the end in mind. So as you think about, well, what is it that why would you even take this step? Why would you add this extra work into your life? what is it that you want to accomplish with this education? So for me, it was knowing that my options were going to be limited if I didn't go on for additional education. So
That's
maybe
great.
that's the motivation. Or maybe it's, I'm working as a nurse, but I really want to be a nurse practitioner. I want better hours for my family, whatever. So there's that goal of what is it that why would you consider higher education? And then if you lock in on that goal, then you can begin looking about where's the best place for me to be able to do my education in a way that fits with my family. So I'm
Mhm.
going to talk about Cedarville for a little bit because I think it's kind of a special approach to graduate education. Cedarville is a Christian university in Southwest Ohio, and every program that we offer is not just preparing you professionally for the degree or the kind of that goal, that end goal, but we're also going to help you think about your career from a biblical perspective. And how do I have an impact for the gospel? How do I have an impact for the kingdom in whatever that career field is? Whether I'm going to be a PA or I'm going to be a nurse practitioner or I'm going to be a pharmacist or I'm going to get my MBA or whatever the degree is that you choose. And so I think you will find yourself going through the process when you enroll in a degree like at Cedarville, where you're growing professionally, you're growing personally, you're growing spiritually. And so those, that 1, 2, 3 years, whatever it is for you, is such a special time of growth.
Mhm.
And so worthwhile. It's challenging. I'm not going to tell anyone that it's not challenging, but at the end of the day, there's such an incredible sense of accomplishment when you achieve that goal that you set out to at the very beginning. It's like I did it, and
Mhm.
God helped me. People came around me and encouraged me in ways I never could have believed. But it's well worth it.
I love that. I'll say, I was talking with a client earlier today. There's a book called The 12-Week Year, that talks about basically goal setting and taking a year's worth of goals and combining it down into, 1 quarter of the year.
Wow.
And, during in that book, there's a graph that addresses something called the emotional cycle of change. The
Mm.
emotional cycle of change. And it looks like a roller coaster almost of you being really excited about a goal,
Yep.
realizing it was harder than you thought it was, feeling totally bummed that it didn't just come so easy to you. I
Yep.
went to the gym once and 30 pounds didn't just fall off, right?
Right.
Or I showed up to class and, they didn't just pass me to the next thing, but then if you keep at it, like if you
Yeah.
keep walking through, eventually you get to success and fulfillment. And I think that, every goal set should begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Whether that's parenting, going to school, working on your career trajectory,
Yeah.
everything should begin with the end in mind,
Yeah.
because that's going to be really the only thing that makes it feel worth it when you're in what the book calls the valley of despair, where
Right.
you just want to throw it all away. Never mind. I don't want to be smart. Yes, you do. You want your education. Here's why.
Keep
I
going.
realize the things that I have access to is limited as long as I stay in this place.
So we call that buyer's remorse. So
Oh,
student,
really?
they apply, they get started, and then it's like, oh
Uh-huh.
no, I don't know if I can do that. And I
Yes.
think one of the cool things about a Christian university like Cedarville is we're going to assign an advisor
Mhm.
to every single student. And that advisor is not just, well, sign up for your next class and move on, but they really care about you as a person. How are
Mhm.
you doing? Because what we find is our graduate students do not struggle in class because they academically can't do it, right? I mean, they
Mhm.
can do it. They've already passed their undergraduate degree. They met the admissions requirements, whatever. We know they can do it, but they're dealing with life. They're
Right.
dealing with kids and they're dealing with work responsibilities and maybe caring for a parent and all of those different types of things. And so we want to provide the support and the resources to say you're a person. You're not just a student at Cedarville.
Mhm.
You're a person that we care about. And so we have a variety of services available. Besides that advisor, we can connect you with what we call the Cove, which is academic support. We can connect you with our counseling services area. We can connect you with our writing center to help you with writing. So we're saying, okay, we're going to take this person who's dealing with life as an adult, and how can we help you be successful and achieve this goal that you've set right from the beginning?
I love that. I love that. Can you share some of the options for for graduate school, for those who are, saying, you know what, this is kind of piquing my interest. I think I can,
Well,
um,
can I tell them about our Momathon benefit? Is
yes,
this a good
do
time
that
to do it?
too.
Okay. So we are so excited to have Momathon Movement as one of our partner organizations. And so what that means is anyone who's associated with Momathon Movement is going to be eligible for a 15% tuition discount on any of our online graduate programs. So it's an incredible opportunity. We have and we don't have an unlimited number of partners. And so we're really excited to have Momathon be part of what we're doing. So in terms of the types of programs for online learners, I mentioned nursing. So we have a Master of Science in Nursing, and we also have a Doctor of Nursing Practice. Both of those are fully online. It'd be for someone who has a bachelor's degree already and they're working with their RN, their licensed nurse. We also offer an MBA with 6 different tracks that you can choose from, everything from accounting to maybe you're trying to start your own business. We have an innovation and entrepreneurship track.
Don't talk to me about that.
Oh, Christina, you need to sign up. That's great.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
intriguing. Keep
Yeah,
going.
entrepreneurship. Let's see what else we've got. Operations management, number of different areas in the MBA. We have a newer degree, which is actually I am so excited about. It's an MA in innovation. So for someone, here's what employers tell us. The number one skill they're looking for in new employees is problem solving. So
Mhm.
basically the ability to come into a situation, there's always going to be problems, right?
Yeah.
And they're looking for people who can look at it and come up with solutions. That's what this degree is about. An MA in innovation is all about how do you be a creative problem solver and add value to a business. And big corporations are seeing the value of innovation and they're creating chief innovation officers and they're creating innovation centers. So if you go, for example, to Chick-fil-A in Atlanta, you're going to see this huge building that is dedicated to innovation in their space. So that's what the Master of Arts in Innovation is. We offer several degrees in the ministry space. So Master of Ministry, if you're like, I'm working in my church, or maybe you're working in a parachurch type of ministry. I just want to know more about practical ministry skills, more about the Bible. We offer a Master of Ministry degree. We offer a biblical leadership degree. So if you're interested in just growing your leadership skills from a biblical perspective, that degree is available. If you're into worship, maybe you lead worship at your church. We have a Master of Arts in Worship and Theology. So there's a number of choices. There's 30 different degrees when you count all the tracks that you can choose from. And then outside of that partnership, we do offer some residential degrees that don't have the same discount, but we offer a Doctor of Pharmacy degree, a PA Studies degree, Master of Athletic Training. So Cedarville really specializes in healthcare and a real strength for us.
I love that question. So someone asked Deborah, hello. She asked about graduate degrees related to law. How does that work? In terms of if someone is interested in law or, does Cedarville offer anything that supports maybe that track?
Well, Deborah, thank you for asking. We do not have a law school. So a law school would be a doctoral program. It's a Juris Doctorate when you graduate. And we do not offer a law degree. Trying to think of other Christian universities that offer a law degree. There aren't that many. Yeah. No, but it's a doctoral program. But you can go straight from undergrad to that doctoral program. It's straight through.
Okay. And then also, I know you all have certificate programs also. Can you allude to those and the benefit that they may have for a mom who has a business or, maybe she's in a career position, she wants some advancement, but she may want to do something that's modified that she can accomplish in a shorter amount of time. Can you, hint at, you all certificate options as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a certificate is a great way to kind of hone in on some skills that you really want to build. So Cedarville has a list of certificates. A certificate is 4 classes, which is a total of 12 credit hours. So like maybe you're managing a business and cybersecurity is something you really want to learn more about. We have a cybersecurity management certificate. We have a biblical leadership certificate. worship leadership certificate,
Mhm.
public health certificate. So basically, you already have some other training, but you're like, I really want to kind of hone in on this particular skill. The
Mhm.
nice thing is, if you do those 12 hours, most of our degrees are 32 to 36 hours. They apply to another degree. And so you're not just kind of wasting your time.
Mhm.
Those hours can go right toward a degree. And it's a great way, I guess, to say, to get your feet wet. Say, you know what, can I do this? Sometimes we have to do things a little at a time, right? So you jump into a certificate program and you finish the 12 hours. It's like, you know what? I'm a third of my way through my master's degree. Let's just go ahead and get this thing done. You didn't
Yeah.
waste any time because those courses are
Way over.
part of another degree. And so, yeah. And if you go to the website we've created specifically for you is cedarville.edu//mamathon benefits. So it's cedarville.edu/mamathon benefits. And if you
Yes.
go to that website, you will see the different programs that are included in the discount. We do have some special offers from time to time. So, for example, I know right now our graduate admissions area is offering a first class free for our Master of Science in Nursing and Doctor of Nursing program. So, put your name in, let us know that you might be interested, and then we'll keep you up to date with some of the latest opportunities. We're getting ready to announce a new ministry program here in the next probably about a month or so. And then our trustees are going to vote on a new program in communications this weekend. So we're always looking at kind of what's next. So in the URL, be sure to put a hyphen between Mamathon benefits and not a slash. Sorry.
There we go. Hold on. I'm going to do he said a hyphen, like a little dash.
Yep, little dash. Yep.
There we go. All better.
Perfect. That's
Great.
it.
Okay, good, good, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to make sure that we had it correct.
Click on, send me more information or whatever, and then we'll make sure that you receive the information you asked for.
Awesome. That is so great. Any final thoughts on from one mom to another? From the woman who has none of us have arrived. Right? None of us have arrived. If anything, we're all very much working through life as we know it.
Yeah.
But are there any thoughts that you have from one as a mom who has jumped? You said, listen, I know my future is worth it. I'm dreaming with the end in mind. I'm looking at my capacity, and I'm adding. I have my big rocks in there, and now I'm putting my little ones in the crevices, and now I'm going to pour water in, and I still see that there's space. For the women who are listening tonight, and they said, you know what, I feel like I can do more. What would your final words be to them before we do our giveaway?
Well, I think really what you're saying, Christina, is the whole idea around being a lifelong learner. And graduate school may be part of that, or finishing an undergraduate degree may be part of that. But it's really having a mindset that I'm always going to be learning. I'm going to be learning from the people around me. I'm going to be reading good books and filling my mind with new information. I'm going to be surrounding myself with people who are going to stretch me and make me think, hey, I could do that, and inspire me to try something new, like we talked about earlier. And then I think education is a piece of that. And it's an opportunity to stretch yourself in ways that you may not even think possible, but once you get into it, you will be so thankful that you made the investment. And I also would want to say that it can be very affordable, especially some companies will help with funding, graduate education, that sort of thing. And we really work hard at making it affordable. But I would say having that mindset, I'm going to be a lifelong learner. And formal education is a piece of that. And obviously that's what Cedarville does. And we love to be able to invest in students' lives. But I would just encourage your listeners, how can you be learning and growing today?
I love that so much. There's a book that I read some time ago. It was called I Can Do Anything If I Knew What It Was.
I love that. It's a great book.
It was like, you can accomplish, you can climb at the Everest, you can do anything if you just figure out what your purpose is. I've had the book for years, but I remember a sentence in that book that said something very similar. It was like, there's nothing that is impossible for you or too hard for you if you're willing to be a beginner. And I think after a certain point in our lives, we no longer want to be a beginner or the person who's learning, or being okay with, I have no idea, and going to ask someone. I think it is the ultimate expression of releasing our egos, for us to say, I'm okay with not knowing, and here's my next step to securing my future, securing the future of my family, right? Because going back to school is that as well. And I'll say this, and listen, if you want to be in the drawing for a ticket, this is last call. Okay. Go ahead and put your information in, put your name in the chat on the Mamathon Diaries page. And I'm going to put your name in there before we draw. But I'm going to reference my husband. He's getting his MDiv now from New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminaries.
Yeah.
But even certain advancements in ministry, right? Because a lot of times we don't think about ministry as a position. Like, you love the Lord, you love serving people. And there are so many amazing ministry opportunities that are not you having to be the pastor, right? Or, fully on deck, but they're in biblical leadership and you serving, a church is a nonprofit organization, and very often we don't consider ministry as an opportunity to advance our careers as well. Wow. So yes, thank you so much for that. All righty, this is exciting. Let's find out who our two winners are. I 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and make sure I'm not missing anyone's name. I think I have everyone. So I am going to. It says tap to spin. I'm figuring this whole thing out. You guys see, I don't have any favorites on here tonight. Okay, so hopefully you are close enough. And Michelle, you are our first winner. Congratulations. Woo-hoo-hoo. I hope that you're close to Atlanta because you have a complimentary ticket, a sponsored ticket to the conference from Cedarville. Okay, I'm about to do it again. We're going to spin one more time. All righty. The next winner is it Nija, Nija? I told her to join in tonight because she was sharing. So I want to come. I'm working it out. You might be a winner.
Yay.
So congratulations, Nija. I hope I got your name correctly. And Michelle, thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. You guys are our winners.
Yeah. Congratulations. We're excited to partner with you all.
Yes, absolutely. So ladies, take a look at the link that is here on the screen. That is to, she said her name is Nija. Thank you very much. And she has some little tears, the tear emojis. Aww. We're glad to have you. What a blessing. Awesome. Yeah, so take a look at the link. This is for you if you are planning and brainstorming with the end in mind. You've already been thinking about going back to school. You've been thinking about advancing your education. You've been thinking about what will my life look like a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. This is your moment. This is your opportunity. You did not stumble on this live by accident. You didn't just make your way here just for happenstance, but instead we believe everything is for a season and the time is now. And I'll also add as we wrap up that there's no perfect time to start. I think Dr. Janice would agree that there's no perfect time to start. Instead, all we can do is show up and say, God, yes. I'll say yes to the next thing. I'll be here. I'll be present. I won't give up on what I believe that you have for me. And so this opportunity with Cedarville is an amazing open door for you to take those next steps. So feel free to hop over to that link. We're going to make sure that we put it in the quote unquote show notes as well, and send it out to our email list. But this is an amazing opportunity for you to take the next step in your educational journey. And we are happy and excited to have you all as a partner, as a resource. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. And I hope the conference is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited. Ladies, we look forward to seeing you. And Dr. Janice, I appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you. You too, Christina. Have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.
Bye bye.